We are here to talk about, during this segment, one of my favorite things. So it goes like my family and cookies and women entrepreneurs. So we're going to talk women entrepreneurs with two of my favorite ones. Lisa Mitchell is still at the table with me. Also joined by Kara Kavensky and my BFF here at work, Tyler Sparkman. So
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to this glorious table. What a power table it is.
Thanks for letting me hang around for another segment.
Of course, you're never
Didn't
leaving.
Banish me to the green room or anything. That's awesome.
You are never leaving. So I think what we really wanted to do was highlight in this segment some of our favorite female entrepreneurs here in Indianapolis, kind of talk about what they've been up to, why we're so encouraging of them, and why they're so special to us. So who wants to start?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. One of the things that I love about being a female entrepreneur in Indianapolis is that there are so many ways that women are being successful and being innovative and really making a name for themselves in the business community right now. And you have everything from women that are really making a show of force in the tech industry and in the tech sector right now and leading. You have like MT Ray at High Alpha, who's, leading and really championing women in technology. And then you have like Martha Hoover, who is the powerhouse behind Pas de Choux. Yep. And Public Greens and her foundation. And you have brick and mortar, you have technology, you have Amber Crockett with Amber Blends. So you have consumer goods. It's just the whole spectrum of where women are really taking ownership and providing leadership is a fantastic and exciting thing to be part of as a woman in the ecosystem here in Indianapolis. And I know, Kara, you're in the trenches and in the towers and
you're a
really
powerhouse in your own right.
Your pulse on everything happening entrepreneurship here in the city. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, there's a lot of opportunity to help cultivate ideas, ideate. It starts with ideation, and then there are so many different groups that we can get engaged with around the city, around the state, and even in the Midwest, throughout the Midwest, to help find support for your business, your idea, connect with really powerful individuals to help foster and facilitate that idea to fruition. So it just depends which lane you're in, which your space, and then you get drawn into that group and you find help. So there's a lot of really amazing women helping other women. In addition to a really nice ecosystem of entrepreneurship here in our state that will help foster that. So regardless of male or female, but female entrepreneurs are really finding their footing, finding a strong voice, and it's really exciting to be a part of this ecosystem.
Well, I think it's nice to break the stigma. So often you hear about like females are competitive with each other and they're just knocking each other down and criticizing each other. That is not at all what this is about. This is quite the opposite.
No,
we're trying to build each other and assist each other where we can. I think that's really powerful.
In the 2016 Indiana Conference for Women, there was an author featured who wrote a book called Tripping the Prom Queen. And that book speaks to that type of phenomena, and there's no room for that anymore. The competitive, I want what she's got. No, you honor, be authentic to who you are, go after your own. There's plenty of room
Earn it yourself.
at the top. Yeah,
Right.
well, and a rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
Like, how does just only looking out for yourself benefit anyone, and not even yourself in the long run? I mean, that creates all kinds of problems. So there's no room for that. And fortunately, in today's ecosystem, I have seen very, very little to none of that, especially in the women's space and entrepreneurship. And just engaging, women connecting with other women, and we have different ways of doing business than men traditionally. So it's interesting, for instance, from a cultural standpoint. And Lisa can speak to this. Like when women get together, we speak in the bathrooms. Okay,
that's where all the good business and life happens. Is in the bathroom.
Exactly, right. So
you never see a woman in the bathroom by herself.
No, that's where all business really
travel in packs. Yep. This is where we do our. So and that's how Kristen Cooper started the Startup Ladies through conversations in the restroom. Where she had started with Sticks and Leaves at Launch Fishers. But we learned that the fact that women talk to each other in the bathroom scares men. They don't do this.
Which is never really the intent in how we operate in the business space. It's just kind of
it freaks them out.
Freaky side effect sometimes.
Yeah, so it freaks them out. So it freaks out men. They don't look at each other in the back. No, their restrooms are set up differently.
That's a whole nother
exactly.
conversation.
Rules of engagement are completely different. But if you look at how women engage with other women, then we are far more direct, for instance, when we go into a meeting. It's like we just get down to business versus with walking into a meeting with men. There's a lot of chit chat and at the beginning, not always, always.
How true that is. That's amazing.
But women are like, all right, I gotta go. Let's hurry up. Let's get this done. Let's talk about this. And sometimes there's storytelling involved. I know that I'm tremendously guilty of that and own it, at being a storyteller. So, but working together, having this environment that is very supportive of one another has been really key with this movement.
Yeah, and one of the things I've witnessed firsthand and have benefited from on both sides of the spectrum is that there's kind of a willingness. Like, I think one of the areas that I'm really passionate about is helping millennial women crack the code in business and women that are ambitious and innovative and driven that normally would maybe be expected to do something else. They're great entrepreneurs. And what I've seen in this community in particular is the willingness of the women that are either in established careers or have a broader catalog of experience to share are very much willing to engage in those conversations and to come alongside, answer questions, mentor, make introductions. I think really specifically in the Indianapolis ecosystem, introductions are everything. More so than skill set, more so than I think any other component that you possess as an entrepreneur. It's who can you connect with,
who you know.
Right. It really is. But the great thing is I don't feel like it's so much like an us and them. Like, I feel like if you know what you're looking for, you can find the resources to make those connections and get you into that space and into those conversations. And there's some great events and some great groups. I've experienced it firsthand as part of Amplify Indy with our forums at our C100. Someday I'll realize there's a microphone there, but until then, I'm just gonna. I'm gonna just keep being awkward. No, I'm a body language person, y'all. I got to use my hands to be expressive. But yeah, I've experienced it as part of Amplify Indy. I've experienced it with the events I've attended with Startup Ladies. I've experienced it at Indiana Conference for Women. There's just this willingness where people want to have that conversation, and you have to have the boldness, especially if you feel like maybe I don't have the resume or I don't have the experience. Like, if I could give advice to entrepreneurs that are new in the space, it's be bold and make your ask. Like, people want to help, they want to say yes, and they want to share their story and their knowledge, and but you have to ask. People can't just, unfortunately, read your mind. Your body language maybe. But not your mind. So you have to kind of advocate for yourself, and you'll be amazed at how quickly those partners really step up and come along beside you.
That's great. I know you mentioned Martha Hoover, and we want to talk about a couple of specific women who are especially impressive in our community, and she's one of them. So can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, she is business goals, I think, for most women in this area, and she's highly acclaimed, and I think one of the things I personally admire most about Martha is her fearlessness, and she has no problem doing a concept or working on a foundation or launching an entirely, new way to serve customers or run a business, and her approach to inclusiveness. Everyone is welcome, and their staff is very diverse. And I think not only do we benefit as customers, but as a business owner, as an organization, as a community, she just has done such a beautiful job of putting together this empire that I think really anyone in any business sector can appreciate and aspire to.
Well, and I think she started out, she's a former sex crime prosecutor. I mean, she's got like a very colorful history behind her. And then to turn that into this empire that she's built now, that's incredible what she's done. She's a pioneer in like the entire farm to table movement here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And she's behind like what I call my favorite restaurants. I mean, she's a genius. So I agree. I think she's incredible. I think that's really good stuff.
She is amazing. And this photo of her in front of the garden.
Isn't it beautiful?
That was the cover shot of a story I wrote on her. So.
Photo credit.
Yeah.
No, not to me. She has a most phenomenal professional photographer on staff. I mean, no one takes photos of and posts pictures of food like they do and make it look appealing. I've never enjoyed photos of food personally until they started posting them. I'm like, this is stunning.
Well, and I think part of
she's amazing.
What they do well that all entrepreneurs, female or otherwise, can really, really learn and model from is the engagement. Like their level of customer engagement. You do not know how bad I want brunch before I get out of bed just from Instagram, from her businesses.
Yeah.
From Pas de Choux, from Petite Choux, from
Napoli's.
Public Greens, Napoli's.
I just went to Napoli's for lunch.
Right. I am at a Martha Hoover establishment no less than 5 times a week.
I mean,
All my
you could
meetings are
go
there.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You could,
Right.
Absolutely.
Some days I do.
no judgment.
Right.
This is the no judgment.
But I think part of the reason, and I think I'm the perfect, case study. Part of the reason I'm so loyal to her brand is because of how she operates. The heart service center that she operates from, you can feel it through the staff. You can feel it in the thoughtfulness of design. You can feel it in the level of direct engagement on social media. I think for any entrepreneur that really is wanting to be successful and grow their business, that is an amazing model to follow.
And you can feel good about what you're putting in your body. She
Right.
doesn't feed you junk.
No, it's very high quality food. She was driving to the airport on her own to pick up field greens before producers and suppliers knew what that was here. So she's amazing. And another female entrepreneur that started really organically was Amber Crockett.
Right.
And
Amber Blends.
Exactly. So you
love her stuff.
I smell like her product right now.
Is it the new one?
Me
Yes.
too.
That's my new favorite one too.
Yeah, well, you're surrounded because that's
Right.
I thought that was me, but it's you.
Right.
So yeah, and she's amazing as well. And so you have, and these are solution-driven women. Okay, so you had Martha wanted to start a place to eat at where she could be home with her kids. Okay, first of all, and she wanted really good quality food. So she started in the morning. She was going to be closed by 3. That type of business model did not seem sustainable at the time. When it was lunch, dinner, you bled into, late nights and it can get out of hand, but she had it quantified. She was very specific. She was very targeted in her mission. Amber created a product out of demand, out of need for her massage clients, creating all natural products. And she had a great background and perfect way to create this. And then it's just exploded.
Yeah, and I
In
think
a
both
great way.
both of what those organizations do really well that other female entrepreneurs would want to emulate or strive for is to build in the give back, right? Build in that community focus, a service focus, the amazing work that the Pas de Choux Foundation does, feeding children that are in food insecure locations. I think they serve over 1,000 meals a week now, and their executive director Matthew Feltrop does an amazing job, advocating for that and building awareness around it. And I think that's all the proceeds from Public Greens go to the foundation and to provide these amazing services. And I think now more than ever, if you're looking to be a woman in any entrepreneurial space, you've got to think about who else can I help or who else benefits from my success. Mm-hmm. And that service, that social piece of it has to be authentic. It has to be a cause you really are passionate about. And it has to be just part of your business plan from the word go. I think consumers are getting very, they're determining their loyalty based on who's doing what for the greater good. And I don't think it's an option anymore to care.
To just do business.
Exactly.
To do business.
Just doing business for revenue. I don't think it's attractive to investors to just have, clearly revenue is important, but I think knowing that there's a more sustainable, social focused piece built into the business
culture,
is important.
It has to be ingrained in the culture of the business authentically from the beginning.
Exactly.
Or it should be, or they need to pivot. But if that's not the MO and the driving authenticity of the person at the helm, we'll look and see how successful that business is going to be. But that is what is very attractive to millennials.
I was just going to say that more and more millennials are only focused on supporting companies that have that greater mission. It's not just about I want to go buy shoes. It's I want to go buy shoes from Tom's because they do the give back because they are supporting other other
it's all about
initiatives.
giving back. Like my generation, you mentioned the
Your
millennials,
people.
my people. Yeah, we're big about going after companies that I want to work for a company too that gives back. Are they not only giving back to me with the work from home day, like we've talked about on Afterburn and stuff like that? It's going after these companies that really want to give back because we need that in this country, in the world now more than ever, is giving back to the community, giving to people who may not be able to do something for themselves or may not have the resources to get something. We really want to support those kind of companies. I do personally, though.
Right. And I think anybody building a business has to be a given in their culture. And it just has to be part of the business plan. And if something gets cut, it can't be that because you can't add it in later and then claim complete loyalty to the cause.
Take it back.
Right. Or cut it after you've instituted it. Like that doesn't play well. That doesn't play well in public either. But I think it's just one of the key things to be aware of is how can I build my business in a way that actually is serving the purpose-driven consumers that I want loyalty from.
Yeah. Well, you guys mentioned, so you mentioned Martha Hoover as one of your guys' kind of icons here in Indy. You both being strong females, entrepreneurs here in Indianapolis, what kind of advice would you give to other females who are maybe looking to step up and maybe start their own business or their own company here in Indianapolis?
Start networking.
Yeah.
If you haven't, go to your warm markets, look online, look on Facebook, look up Lisa and I, on LinkedIn.
Contact them directly.
Yeah,
seriously.
Lisa, we'll talk to you.
I will. I love it. Yeah.
And we'll connect you. So, and it depends which space. So with the recent event that I'm a co-founder of with NX3 last month, in June, we had, last year we had a female who won the pitch competition, female named Kristen Nunnery with my COI, my certificate of insurance. She now has over 20 to 30 employees. They're growing. They'll be doubling in size soon with plans, and is really, she's killing it. She's doing super well. This year, Maggie Galloway, CEO of InScope Medical in the life science space. We had a lot of life science companies, but here we've had 2 female entrepreneurs win our competition 2 consecutive years in a row. It's based on a rubric. It's not because of their body parts. They won it legitimately, and it's fantastic. And it speaks well to our ecosystem that we have created an environment where that is possible. So there should be no discouragement whatsoever. It's just a question of getting connected, attending the right meetups, attending the right events. We've got this wonderful golf outing coming up with women in high tech or women in tech.
Oh, girl, it's Indianapolis Women in Technology. The LPGA tour is coming, and they've built an entire week of women in technology focused and empowering program around it. It's a perfect fit. It's going to be an amazing event.
So that's one group. Women in the high tech is another group. There's a SaaS event coming up in end of next week, I believe. And there's in 2 weeks, there's a lot of opportunity in the tech space and also between the coding schools with 1150 Academy. If someone's interested or has an inclination towards coding, there's opportunity in that space through the universities and someone wanting to pivot. I interviewed 2 empty nester moms who went back to school to learn to code because
That's incredible.
That's
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Well, one of them has very strong intentions. She's a nurse and wants to create a very different, very helpful, solution-focused SaaS platform for nurses and hospitals to assist with note-taking. And she knows exactly what she wants to do, and she's going to code it herself. So she's on it. And
Wow.
Yeah, and so there are these women with very specific intentions and goals. And what if you just want to do something and not sure with whom, and then just start networking, start figuring it out. Start whiteboarding and begin your process. read what's going on in our community. There's a lot of different publications that we can get dialed into. Jared Council is one of the writers with the IBJ, focuses in on tech. He's got a great newsletter on Fridays, and sign up for that. Start listening, to this podcast, and what's going on in Indy. Amplify Indy does such a great job with events and things that are coming up in the city, and those events, attract in people that are interested in helping the community and make it a better place. So it's not just about female entrepreneurship. Across the board, we've got a lot of women to look up and admire, but we also have the ability, who are accessible, by the way, for conversations. But look at, how you can get engaged, how you can create your own solution, to a problem, or get engaged with one that's already going on right now, and look at ways to enhance that team.
Yeah, my advice would be just to start, because I think that the tendency, as in research shows, that women, even when it comes to applying for a traditional job, unless we feel like we meet 90% or more of the criteria, we consider ourselves not qualified and we don't go after the job. And I think in entrepreneurship, and I think in tech or any other sector right now, unless we feel like our our business plan or our business canvas map is 110% and we're ready to sit down and we have to look 100% credible and we can't have any uncertainty, we don't start, or we don't engage in the community, or we don't talk about it, or we don't start asking for meetings with people that really hold the key to our success and in our development. And you just got to get over yourself and just start having the conversation, start talking about your idea and your product, start participating in the community and adding value there, getting your name known, and start asking for what you need, start asking for those introductions and those conversations. But just sitting there waiting to be ready is never going to benefit you. You've got to start.
I call them, and there's several of us who use this term, entrepreneur. So, and that's a thing. There are people who like to talk about ideas, but may never actually do them.
Right, because then there's no risk. You can't fail if you don't start.
Exactly, if you don't try. So there's, is that fear factor involved in there. But, if you feel strongly about something, or like an idea, like I think of them as a gift. So all of a sudden you get this idea, and whether it's for a startup company or some other a type of creation, like, look, if you don't act on it, someone else will. So like when the world is ready for a really disruptive concept, then, go for it. Because if you won't act on it, someone else is going to, if the time is right.
Exactly.
It could be yours.
Exactly.
Something else I wanted to talk about, both of you especially. So, we've been here at Site Strategics, we've been focused heavily on company culture and kind of facilitating that and making sure that we have a strong environment here. And part of that is kind of balancing the work-life balance and finding, how do you make that happen? Is it really a thing? Can it be a thing? I think there's a stigma a lot of times about women have a hard time finding work-life balance. So speak to, if you can, kind of how you approach that. Do you have it? Is it attainable?
Yeah, I think it's relative. Like, Kara's schedule makes me tired just to get a text about it. I'm like, there is no way I would want to go that many places and talk to that many people in one day. No, thank you. Right. So even our relative definitions of work-life balance, but she gets energy from it, and it's just standard operating. I personally have worked in balance. I think it's more contentment, work-life contentment. I don't know that you're ever going to balance, or that it's ever going to be a 50-50 scale. I think it's, where am I fulfilled in both areas simultaneously? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I strive for, is fulfillment and contentment and joy in both areas simultaneously, more so than amount of time invested or whatever. But I've also worked very much out of balance when I did not have boundaries, and I did not, my day ran me. I did not run my day. I said yes to way too many things. And so getting really strict on boundaries, defining what my highest point of impact was, and saying no nicely, but saying no to anything that didn't really serve or protect that structure. That's the only way I got control back, was learning to say no, getting very clear, first of all, on what I wanted to do and where I should be spending time, like here at Edge Media Studios,
all the
because you
time with
cannot
us.
get rid of me. This will always be yes. Sorry. Always be yes. But it's really prioritizing it and being okay saying no, and because it's somebody else's expectation of you, you're not obligated to show up.
What about you? Work-life balance.
That's a tough one. All right. And I've got to own up to this. So I do work a lot, but also I love what I do. So when I take time and unplug, I take time and unplug. So, I do try to take that time and have that buffer where I'm just not looking at email, not looking at my phone, unless I, need to, something with the kids or something. But I think that I personally believe, like, when you really love something that you do and are really driven, that you have to step away from it, from time to time. But, I do drown myself a little bit in certain projects. I'm not going to lie. So I'm sure that there can be an argument made that I need to do a better job with that.
Well, and sometimes it's seasonal or cyclical or event driven. When you're putting NX3 together, like that, I know we kind of dropped off the radar because you're super busy and that was focused and it was a sprint, but there was a deadline, and then you can build in recovery and rest and kind of rehab yourself from that pace a little bit,
right,
until the next event comes.
Yeah, and then there's another event.
Right.
There's another event.
Then
next
the
thing
amp
comes.
back up.
The
Yeah.
amp.
Right. And fortunately for 2018, we've got a longer runway. So when we put together the 2017, this year we had a short runway. We had amazing support, amazing sponsors, including Site Strategics here. Edge Media was fantastic as a partner with us. And but leading into next year, we're looking at some dates in September, technically, right around like the 17th to the 21st of September next year, a much
very
longer
technical.
runway. Yeah, it's sort of
Mark
the
your
first
calendars
time.
now.
Yeah,
Put a
save
hold on
the
that
date
time.
right now.
NX3.
Yeah. So, and we're still tossing that around and finding our home for that for next year, and using where our facility we had this year, Union 525, was more of a one-hit wonder location just because of various stages of construction in the building. It was great, but we need a larger facility. We had so much demand, and it's just going to grow this event. So we need a longer runway to prep for that. So I'm not quite in that zone yet.
We're not going to make you answer all the questions right now.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not prepared to be public with them. And I should have probably asked for permission before I disclosed the dates for next year too. So, but we're making it easier to get engaged actually with it, and that was a huge time commitment, and we'll see what it looks like next year. I can't wait to do it again.
One thing I want to touch on before we're done today is we all, you both touched on failure. And obviously, unfortunately, sometimes.
Or fortunately.
Unfortunately.
No, fortunately too.
Fortunately too. We all have to, we all fail in life. But we can also learn from those failures. So I'm curious to know, what is your guys' best fail? And what did you get out of learning from that failure?
You go first, Lisa. I got to think about this.
Oh, I have several. It's hard to just pick one. I've fallen flat many times. The biggest failure that I've had professionally was when I had brick and mortar business locations. I had at one time 4 coffee shops, like coffee houses between Fishers and downtown Indianapolis. And my biggest failure, ironically enough, with those was not carefully enough vetting the yeses that I got. I didn't really have anybody that challenged me or posed the question, if you get all the yeses you want, do you like what your day looks like when you wake up in the morning? Are you excited to walk into that day?
Maybe for one day.
When you get everything that you want. Right. It was me just taking whatever opportunity came to me, whatever yeses that I got, and assuming because they said yes, it was right. And not kind of gut checking that in reality, checking that in long-term planning against that, the implication of that yes. So not every yes is the best yes. And not every time someone says you're amazing, is that a foolproof insurance policy that your idea is going to work? I learned that. So I just carefully vet your yeses. And if something's not working for you, stop it immediately. Like, get out as quickly as you can. Don't ride down with the ship.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
good.
All right, that's hard to follow.
Okay.
But I'll try. I think that one of my many failures was when I owned a Pilates studio for a very long time, and the structure that I had initially for the first like 10 years didn't lend itself to those that I were training. I was instructing other instructors to really work with me in the same space as efficiently and as effectively as possible because of where my studio was and the size. And if I could, roll back the time a bit, I would have moved the studio, had a larger space, and had a better plan for growth and expansion. And instead of how I had handled it at the time. And my life was a little different in that space. But I would have, one of the things I was always strong with mentoring others, but I really feel like they should have worked with me more, like in the close proximity versus a weekend or an evening or just a couple hours to come in. Like we should have really had that more dialed in. I should have, and so that's probably my biggest fail is that while I was mentoring them, I really could have nurtured them much more in that zone, and I really believed in the body work and everything and what they were doing and watching them grow. But that would be mine. There's I have a whole list.
Well,
but
and
that's the one I'm gonna talk
I think
about.
it's important too that's a great illustration that failure is not. People are kind of like it's a black and white thing. Either you're successful or you failed, but failure kind of runs on a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a process breakdown, or sometimes it's a cultural mismatch, or sometimes it's a bad hire, or sometimes it's a product that's not a good fit. Like there's lots of kind of little failures if you look at it that way, but each one of those learnings then propel you to come back at something differently and adjust and pivot. So I think it's more mind frame. Not every failure is a crash and burn disaster.
It's only a failure if it kills your dream. So long as you still have that, you can build off of it.
And I think failure is such a big, scary word, and it's got such a negative connotation. But it's like actually can be a great tool, right? It can be an amazing tool, right?
And I think that the best way to judge an idea is: would you do this even if you failed? Or do you feel that passionate about it and want to pursue it so badly that you're risking failure? And they're all learning experiences. It's like just a bump along. Like if you put down the bumpers when you're bowling, which I always thought it was convenient to have a small child.
I was to say I still do that. Are we not supposed to?
We are big advocates for the bumpers here at Edge of Indy.
She's too old. She's too old for that. I know this. But that it just guides you along where you're supposed to be targeting, and a fail with a business, with an idea, with a concept, with an element, or even like an entrepreneurial element of your business model as a whole. Okay, so that didn't work out. Well, it's like you pluck out the weed.
Yeah, don't scrap the whole thing.
Yeah,
right,
no. You go to the whiteboard, you pivot a little bit, or just eliminate that element, that option, and you just learn and just keep focused. So, there is no. I don't know. I touch on that spectrum quite a bit, but I consider it a learning opportunity.
There's no such thing as failing after all.
There you go.
Well, yeah.
You heard it here first. Well, before we go, I want to make sure, first I want to thank you all. This has been amazing, and I could literally talk about this with you all night long.
Thanks for having us.
We are not allowed to do that. I want to make sure they can connect with you. So website, inx3.org. They can go there for updates. And for the official dates,
for
the official dates, when it's she's allowed to say that.
We've got to do some updating.
But keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it.
Yes, and especially on the app. That would be a great place. Follow it, and on Twitter, social media, at INX3 Indy.
And also at Kara Kavensky also, right?
Absolutely.
And then Facebook, INX3 Indy.
Yes.
Awesome.